Imagine this. Someone broke into your home. You can legally shoot them in the face with a gun in self-defense. What can you not do maybe? Spray them with wasp spray. How? Why? This is intended as the wasp spray video to rule them all. I've got real video that I'll be showing you of someone being shot in the face with wasp spray. We're gonna be talking about some of the real world effects. I've got real world cases. Guys, let's get into it. All right, bottom line up front, do not use wasp spray in self-defense. Use it for wasps, not people. The chemicals that modern wasp sprays are based on come from a family called pyrethrins and are frankly quite mild. This isn't like the old-timey wasp spray that a lot of people said could do burns and all sorts of other stuff. Ever since the 80s, they've basically watered it down, and now here we are. They will only irritate an attacker's eyes, as you will see in the video here, and those eyes maybe will absorb some nerve-targeting agents, which is what wasp sprays are designed around, and perhaps those agents will then cause some nerve damage over time. Maybe. But what it's not going to do is end an attack. And if you're in a position where you can be using deadly force in self-defense, that's not what I want to be doing. If you're in a position where you can use non-deadly force in self-defense, that still isn't what I want to be doing. And you're going to be seeing why. Okay, so you're going to see two short videos of the same guy being shot, being blasted in the face with wasp spray. Two different kinds working in slightly two different ways. One's kind of your traditional wasp spray, the other one's kind of the foamy one. What I want you to pay attention to is this guy's not dropping to the ground, begging for mercy. There's no involuntary eye closing like on pepper spray, OC, that kind of stuff. Let's see the first one.
Okay, ready?
Yep. Okay. That completely, I'm going to kneel down, completely hit my face. It's in my eyes. I can feel it dripping in my eyes. And there's no pain or discomfort.
Okay, so that's your normal wasp spray. Let's see if the foamy one does anything different.
It's much more foamy than the other one, that's for sure.
Okay, that was a lot more powerful. It was right more in the face.
Right. Not exactly overwhelming stuff. We want to thank that gentleman for putting that YouTube video out there. Linked in the description box below. Go check it out. He does a lot more talking and he walks through his experience in much more detail. So if you want to check that out, please see that link in the description box below. And again, thank you to him for putting it out there. So a couple questions for you to think about. Could that man have still pulled out a firearm and start shooting at you? Could he pulled out a knife and start charging you? Could he have been still driving his car to hit someone, or whatever it is that you're trying to stop him to do? Are you willing to bet your life that you could stop him from doing that with wasp spray? That's the question. Let's go to some real world examples rather than someone just standing in a yard taking a can of good old wasp spray to the face. So there is one case that I found. There's actually a couple different cases that I found, but there's one in particular that I found that involved bug spray. Basically, there's some sort of incident and a guy comes over to another person's home. The homeowner winds up spraying his unwanted guest with bug spray right to the face. Now, this is just classic criminal justice system because they're actually both claiming self-defense. And by the way, this happens way more often than you might want to think. So the guy who came over is claiming self-defense and he had to enter the homeowner's home in order to take away the bug spray. The homeowner is claiming self-defense because, you know, the guy came over to my home and he's kicking in the door and he busted the door jamb and the proof of all that was right there and the cops looked at it. Now, what actually wound up happening is the intruder, after absorbing a big blast of bug spray to the face, enters the home, chases him down, basically gets some sort of MMA mount position on him and just pummels the guy. This is after he just got blasted in the face with bug spray. Does that sound terribly effective to you? Doesn't to me either. Link in the description box. That's a Michigan case, People versus Whitburn, 2011. As a note, the guy who got prosecuted was not the bug spray guy. It was the home intruder guy. And the bug spray guy actually was not prosecuted for anything, which is relevant to know because what a lot of people will say out there, when they're not wrong, is that as a regulated chemical, as a regulated pesticide, it could be a crime to misuse that. One example of misuse is blasting another human being in the face with wasp spray or bug spray. That does not mean that every single time this happens, the feds are going to step in and charge. Trust me, I don't think there's a federal prosecutor in the world who is going to be excited and jumping up and down to take that case. They've got much more important things to be dealing with. But that doesn't mean that a state prosecutor may not try to get creative with some sort of assault or battery charge, okay? Those sorts of things could still be out there. You're probably more likely to have some sort of state-level prosecutor shoehorn a prosecution than see the feds step down, all else being equal, and it's not like you're some sort of cartel member doing something crazy. Bottom line, case number 1, not a showstopper. Guys, you just caught us browsing through. We appreciate you joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. And my question for the discussion in the comment field below is, do you really think you're still going to see folks out there suggesting pepper spray? I made this video because I encountered 2 people on the internet who are actively suggesting using pepper spray. One of them identified themselves as a self-defense instructor for a concealed carry course. Ouch. I didn't think I had to make this video, but here we are. I appreciate you viewing it. Now back to the video. Another case. This one comes from the Capitol protests back on January 6th of 2021. There was a man who was protesting who was charged and convicted of felony assault. Charged and convicted, he pled, for spraying Capitol officers on 3 separate occasions throughout the day. According to one news source that I found, quote, one officer reported that he was sprayed in the mouth and that he experienced a burning sensation on his face and eyes, end quote. I can tell you that in my perusals around the internet, this seems pretty consistent. Some sort of irritant, maybe a burning sensation. It presents it differently, but that's about the spectrum of what I see out there. People are not dropping to the floor with burns and their face melting off Indiana Jones style here. We're seeing very mild effects. And unfortunately, I do not have more information about what happened to this particular officer. This is all the information that I have in this case. But again, no one reported, and I assume it to be true, that if there was long-term devastating damage or if the officer had to be immediately rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, that probably would have made it into the news story here, okay? But it wasn't. And also, of course, of note, just what I warned you before, we see a felony-level assault for spraying the wasp spray. Okay, so again, prosecutors can shoehorn these. They don't have to use those particular federal statutes for misuse of pesticides and whatever other things may be lurking out there in the weeds. So, case number 2, showstopper? No. One thing to keep in mind in the articles that I read, and I'll link some of those in the description box below, something that they continuously emphasize when looking at the chemical breakdown is that the active ingredients in wasp spray consist of 0.04 to 0.06% of pyrethrin or pyrethroids. That's the particular species of what we're talking about here. So in other words, that's the actual active ingredient. So for those of you who are math challenged, that's well under 1%. That's a fraction of 1% of all that liquid's coming out that's actually doing something. Maybe if someone was taking a pure bath in this stuff, it could actually hurt them immediately right away, but it's not designed to do that. It's designed to go after the nervous system of a wasp, not to penetrate and destroy and disable a human 2-legged threat and attacker. Okay, so hopefully, and I can keep going through other cases, but I don't want to just keep beating a dead horse here. Hopefully you're seeing the fact, both with your own eyes and hearing other stories, wasp spray, not a man stopper. This is not a man stopper. What could be a man stopper, though, is your chance of not only being criminally arrested and charged for felonies if you misuse wasp spray by spraying someone, but also you could be looking at getting a civil lawsuit against you. You could be sued civilly for money. Why and how? Well, look, I'm not a civil law attorney, thankfully, but I think it would look something like this. If you choose to spray someone in the face, and let's assume that you're allowed to use self-defense in this particular moment, and this wasn't some sort of malicious drive-by wasp spraying or something like that, okay? You basically chose to misuse a chemical pesticide in a way that you reasonably should have known would not stop the attack. So there's a question as to whether or not you're even privileged to use it if you're using a type of force that is knowingly not going to stop the attack. But again, setting aside those sorts of issues, because I can see an attorney making those arguments. But furthermore, with it soaking into someone's skin, their eyes, through whatever else, that may create damage over time to the, and you're going to love this, victim being that person who was violently attacking you or threatening to violently attack you moments before. The one with the really long rap sheet, yeah, the victim, because that, I assure you, that's what they're going to be getting called in court. Now you've created some sort of nerve damage to them. They've got pain and suffering. Maybe they can never work again if they ever did. And all of a sudden, you owe them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and it's time to move out of your home and back into your parents' basement. Right. Probably not the way you scripted this. And again, another reason to not use Wasp Spray. If you do want to use something less lethal than a firearm or knife or something like that, there is something that exists. Pepper spray. Really quickly, for those of you who do not know this, let's get a sense as to how spicy pepper spray is. There's something called the Scoville Heat Index. A jalapeno on the Scoville Heat Index is about 8,000. Cayenne pepper, 50,000. Habanero, 325,000 units on the Scoville Heat Index. Ghost pepper, we're up to 1.4 million. Pepper spray, 5.3 million. I want to be emphatically clear, do not do this at home. But if you rub a jalapeno in your eye, that acute stinging sensation, yeah, it gets 6,625 times worse with actual pepper spray. Pepper spray is engineered to create involuntary eye closures. I've been pepper sprayed, not much fun. Do not recommend. But guys, at the end of the day, Wasp Spray, ineffective, possibly illegal, possibly a crime. Don't do it. I've packed the description box below with a whole bunch of other resources and links if you still want to read more for some crazy reason. Otherwise, let's get to our quote of the day. This one comes from the Roman Seneca, quote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." Another good one. I look forward to seeing the comments. Keep your FUD alerts out there in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.